You saw inflation in the news and just scrolled past. Yeah, same. It sounds like background noise, some number on a chart that has nothing to do with your actual life. But here's the truth. Inflation isn't abstract. It's your grocery bill. It's your gas tank. It's your rent, quietly climbing while your paycheck stays exactly the same. And right now, prices are rising at the fastest pace in years. So let's actually talk about what's happening, why it's happening, and more importantly, what you do about it. First, the basics. Inflation just means prices are going up over time, which means your money buys less than it used to. Simple enough. But here's the part most people skip past. A lot of the recent spike is coming from one place: energy. Gas prices have jumped over 40% recently, and energy isn't just what you pay at the pump, it's baked into everything else. Shipping costs go up, manufacturing costs go up, heating, food production, transportation, all of it runs on energy. So when energy spikes, it doesn't stay in its lane, it pushes through the entire economy, one price tag at a time.
That's the mechanism. Now here's the part that actually matters to you.
What is inflation doing to your money, specifically the money you're not using? Let's say you've got savings sitting in a regular bank account. Maybe it's earning 1% interest. Sounds fine on paper, right? Your balance is technically growing. But if inflation is running at 4%, you're not actually gaining. You're losing about 3% in real value every single year. The number on the screen goes up, what that number can buy goes down. That's the trap. It feels like saving. It functions like slowly leaking.
Here's a simple way to picture it. If you have $10,000 sitting in cash, untouched, earning next to nothing, that same $10,000 won't buy nearly as much 10 or 20 years from now. Not because you spent it, because the world around it got more expensive while it sat still. Cash doesn't fight inflation. Cash just absorbs it. So why doesn't everyone just move all their money into stocks or assets the second inflation ticks up? Because that's not the move either. You still need cash. An emergency fund, money for bills, money for the next few months. That needs to stay liquid and accessible, full stop. The mistake isn't holding cash. The mistake is holding everything in cash, indefinitely, with no plan for the money you don't need anytime soon.
This is where the idea of an inflation hedge comes in. A hedge is just something that historically holds up or grows even when prices are rising. And historically, a few categories have done that. Stocks, especially broad index funds, have historically outpaced inflation over long stretches of time. Not every single year, but over 10, 20, 30-year periods. Real estate tends to appreciate over time, and rents tend to rise with inflation too, which is part of why landlords aren't usually the ones losing sleep over rising prices. There are also inflation-specific tools like I-bonds and TIPS, government-backed options literally designed to adjust their value based on inflation itself.
None of these are magic. None of them are guaranteed. Stocks can drop in any given year, sometimes hard. Real estate isn't liquid. You can't sell a house in an afternoon if you suddenly need cash. But the historical pattern is clear. Assets that grow tend to outrun inflation over time. Cash that just sits tends to fall behind it. That's not a hot take. That's just what the data shows, decade after decade. So what does this actually look like in practice? It's not complicated, and it's definitely not about timing the market or guessing the next headline. It looks like this. First, know what your money is actually doing. Check your savings account interest rate. Compare it to where inflation currently sits. If there's a gap, that gap is real money disappearing in slow motion, and most people never even look at it. Second, separate your money by timeline. Money you need in the next year or two, emergency fund, short-term goals, that stays safe and liquid, ideally in something like a high-yield savings account, which at least narrows the gap. Money you won't touch for 5, 10, 20 years, that's the money that should be working harder. That's the money that can sit in diversified, long-term investments built to grow over time. Third, stop treating "I'll figure it out later" as a strategy. Every year that long-term money sits idle in a low-interest account instead of being invested, you're not playing it safe. You're quietly losing ground. Doing nothing feels like the cautious choice. It's actually the choice with a hidden cost. You just don't see the bill until years later, when you realize the money didn't grow the way it needed to. Now, let's address the thing nobody says out loud. None of this requires you to become an economist. You don't need to predict the next Fed decision or explain global oil markets at a dinner party. You need exactly two things: awareness, knowing that inflation is actively working against cash that just sits there, and a plan, a simple, boring, unglamorous habit of putting money that isn't needed soon into something built to outpace rising prices over time. That's genuinely it. This isn't about chasing the next trending stock or trying to outsmart the market. It's about not letting your money quietly lose value just because it never left the bank account. The people who build real, lasting wealth over decades usually aren't the ones making dramatic, high-risk bets. They're the ones who understood this one principle early and then just kept going, consistently, boringly, for years. So here's where that leaves you. Inflation is going to keep happening. It always has. It's not a crisis you need to panic about, and it's not something you can opt out of by ignoring it. It's just a fact of how money works over time. The only real question is whether your money is positioned to keep up with it, or whether it's quietly falling behind while you're not looking. You don't need to overhaul your entire financial life tonight. You just need to stop treating inflation like background noise. Look at where your money actually sits right now. Ask yourself honestly, is this working for me, or is it just sitting here, losing a little ground every year without me noticing? That one question is the entire shift. Not panic, not chasing trends, just paying attention and making sure your money has somewhere to go. You're not behind. You're not late to some imaginary deadline. You're paying attention, which already puts you ahead of where you were 5 minutes ago. That's the move. Now go check your numbers.